military timings.
I guess my other question is are those even needed?
Welcome, everyone. I call to order the...
Recording in progress.
No worries. I call to order the December 20th, 2021 Board of Aldermen meeting. Would everybody please join with me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Alderman Plufka?
Here.
Alderwoman Tice?
Here.
Alderwoman Sims? Here. Alderman Weggie?
Here.
Alderman Gould? Absent. Alderman Lockmiller?
Here.
Alderwoman O'Neill? Absent. Alderman Shelton?
Here.
So the 8 members are present.
Great, thank you. Next item on the agenda is the announcements, appointments, proclamations, and recognitions. I have one item under this, and that is the appointment of somebody to the Planning and Zoning Commission. You should have on your board docs the voluntary application for Leslie Nichols. She's a Ward 1 resident, and she has expressed some interest in helping the city by serving on any committees that are available. And she had expressed an interest in serving on the library board, but this there's an opening and immediate need for multiple people in planning and zoning. And so I am making the appointment of Leslie Nichols to the Planning and Zoning Committee. So if anybody care to make a motion to approve that appointment, it'd be greatly appreciated.
So moved.
Second.
Great. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the agenda approval. Any amendments? Yes, Alderman Lockmuller. I'm sorry, is your microphone on?
Turned off. I'd like to make a motion to table item 8E of the consent agenda until the February 22nd, 2022 Board of Aldermen meeting.
Second on that?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Alderman Lockmuller.
There was some, we approved this, the board has, the SSM wellness program for the police force. But the city attorney has made some documents available since then, and I'd kind of like to bring that back to the January Public Safety Committee for just a review, and then bring back to the board at that time.
Okay. Is there any chance that it could be taken up at the first meeting of the Board of Aldermen? Would it need to be the second meeting, timing-wise?
It would be the second meeting because I hear there's a possibility that the Public Safety Committee meeting,
Well,
is that next? I'll just pause.
Go ahead, Alderman Lockmuller.
Yeah, it depends on whether we can get together, I guess.
yeah, we're having some issues with a quorum, and so I wanted to put this off to the January meeting. I spoke with the chief, and it's not of any time urgency.
It could come back at the second meeting in January. We just wanted to.
He means February.
February.
Well, he said February, but if you,
No, what I was asking, and could we take it up at the first meeting of the Board of Aldermen in the month of February?
oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we can do that.
Well, I guess I'll amend it to the first meeting in February.
Okay.
And I'll second, though.
Okay. Any further discussion on that? Okay, great. So, other than that, do we have any other changes to the consent agenda? Any objection to approving the consent agenda as amended by removing item 8E by acclamation? Seeing none, the agenda will be approved. Brings us down to citizen comments. Thank you. Anybody in the public care to address the board? Now is the time to do so. You'll be given up to 3 minutes. Nobody online either? Okay. Mayor and Alderman reports. The mayor has no report. Alderman Plufka?
No report.
Alderwoman Tice?
I'd just like to thank the fire department for the wonderful parade. I was out watching, but I did not have nearly as much fun as all the children who were running along with the parade, and just thank them for continuing to do something that our citizens like so much.
Thank you. Alderwoman Sims?
No report.
Alderman Weggie?
I'd second the thanks for the fire department, but also Parks and Rec for the Santa home visit program, which was wildly received on our block. So it's a great way to get your picture and done in 10 minutes. So thanks for that.
Alderman Lockmuller.
As I stated earlier, the Public Safety Committee meeting scheduled for Wednesday, the 22nd, is in a little bit of, everybody needs to go shopping, I guess. So we're going to try to reschedule that. We'll have a date at another time.
Okay, thank you. And Alderman Shelton.
No report.
Great. Moves us down to item 7, the city administrator report. First up is the Brentwood Bound update. Craig?
Good evening. Craig Schlitter with Navigate Building Solutions. I'll be providing the Brentwood Bound update. Starting with construction costs, total spent since the last Board of Aldermen meeting was $1,286,737.02. Next is soft costs. Total spend since the last Board of Aldermen meeting was $56,312.27, and that was spent on material testing, playground and Manchester Road improvements, design and engineering, charter line relocation fees, legal fees, and bid advertisement. Next is property acquisitions. $27,158.07 was spent on real estate taxes. In the categories of funding, in the sections below, the city received $40,000 from the 319 grant. There was some discussion at the last Board of Aldermen meeting about the different COP investment incomes because the 2018 COPs has to be spent on Brentwood Bound, and the 2019 COPs can be spent on other things beyond Brentwood Bound. So I broke out those just so you guys understood where that investment income currently is at. The 2018 money is all spent, so that number won't go up. But the 2019 COPs are still being invested, so we should see that number rise as some of these investments mature. And then lastly, the Bowser House, another rent check was received. So that number went up by 1 month rent, and that is it.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Craig? Alderman Lockmuller, Plufka, I'm sorry.
Thank you. I don't really have a question. I just wanted to thank you specifically for breaking out those two highlighted measures. And it is remarkable that in the time space since we issued those bonds and they've been subject to investment activity, there is over $1.5 million in additional funds. That's remarkable. So thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Anybody else? Thank you, Craig.
Thank you.
Next up is item 7B, warrantless notation.
Thank you, Mayor. This has been a housekeeping item for staff, where if you recall, we have been putting items under the city administrator report where we're calling out a check request on the warrant list that will be approved before the legislative act. So there's another one on the agenda tonight, Bill number 6366, an ordinance approving a fiber optic facility relocation with Charter Communications.
Great, thank you. And since this item is on the warrant list and under consent agenda, if you have any questions about this, now would be a great time to ask about that. If not, you could always bring it up during the consent agenda. Seeing none, we will move on. Thank you. Brings us to the consent agenda. Are there any questions or any requests to remove any of the items under the consent agenda? Chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Plufka.
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice.
Yes?
Alderwoman Sims.
Yes.
Alderman Weggie.
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller.
Yes.
Alderman Shelton.
Yes.
Approve.
Great, thank you. Brings us to old business. There's only one item under the old business, and that is Bill number 6361. And with that, Mr. City Attorney, can we get a second read of Bill 6361 by title only, please?
Bill number 6361, second reading and consideration for adoption, an ordinance adopting the annual budget for the city of Brentwood, Missouri for the calendar year 2022 and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. Chair would entertain a motion to perfect Bill 6361 into ordinance form.
So moved. Second.
Right? Any discussion? Alderman Plufka.
I don't really have a question so much as, or I guess it would fall under discussion, and that is having to do with the, our revenue experience with regard to, not only the, the use tax, but also with regard to the economic development tax, that the it's remarkable. It really is remarkable that the experience the city's having with that. And I guess I bring it up at the budgeting time because I know we had talked about the idea that we would refrain from or restrict ourselves from certain capital spending. Madam City Administrator, you'd mentioned in an email about the notion that we might revisit that question. That would be something we would do in the first quarter, perhaps?
Right,
Okay,
that's correct.
okay. And that's, nothing's changed or anything since that?
No, I think if the mayor, do you want to say something?
No, go right ahead.
I sent out an email to the board on Friday, just sharing with you how the use tax and the economic development sales tax have been performing, and they've been performing really great, month-over-month increase that we've been experiencing. And I also shared that, especially the use tax, we had budgeted $295,000, and through October, we've collected a little over $500,000, $560,000. And so we still have the months of November and December left. So we will be bringing in significantly more than we budgeted. And then we have all of next year. So who knows if it might be even greater than what we projected in the 2022 budget. And the same applies to the economic development sales tax. We have enough to not only pay the debt, but based on the report that Craig Schluter presented, in 4 years, we will have approximately $5.4 million in unspent, unallocated monies from the economic development sales tax. So we are having to defer a lot of our capital improvements for the 2022 budget, but because of how the use tax, for instance, has been performing, there will be, an additional maybe 300, 400,000 possibly, that we will take back to the different committees, Public Safety, Public Works, Ways and Means ultimately, to reprioritize what can be restored in the budget. So we will be having that conversation next year.
That was gonna be my question, was how that was gonna come back to us. It was gonna come back to us through the committees?
Right.
Okay. That's
Anything else?
what I have.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, just to kind of follow up on Alderman Plufka's observation is, I think that what we see from staff, from the finance department, and from Ways and Means Committee is the benefit in the conservative projections, in the use tax and in the economic development sales tax. You know, we project low, but we're bringing in substantially more, and we all, I think, can agree that's definitely the best practices as opposed to the opposite. So, good news all around. Anybody else? Okay, well, with that, I will take a roll call, please.
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderman Shelton?
Yes.
By a vote of 6-0, passage of Bill 6361 will become ordinance number 4998, when signed by the mayor.
We have a budget. Congratulations, everybody. We get to stay in business next year. Okay, let's move on to new business. We have 2 items under that. The first is bill number 6365. Can I get a first reading by title only, please?
Bill number 6365, first reading, an ordinance approving an agreement for communication facility relocations with Charter Communications for the Brentwood Bound Improvement Project.
Dan, are you taking this?
I mixed it up on you. We're not doing MSDs this time around, so it's fiber optic. In your packet, you'll see there's a relocation that's necessary. There's actually a cell tower at that property, which is 8,000 Manchester Road. That's the former Frederick Roofing. At the southernmost edge of that property is this cell tower. And as you recall, we're doing some Ameren relocations in that area as well. There's fiber optic as well as a power feed that goes into this cell tower. It needs to be relocated due to the improvements in Phase 2 in that area. So I tried to include a little snippet of a drawing and put a little star where the tower is to show you with respect to that MSD access road of where we're talking about. And for Charter to do any of this relocation work, they want to be paid the $15,630.24. They'll schedule their crew, and then they'll do the relocation that's necessary at this property. So for us to do that, we would need to approve this relocation work.
Any questions? As usual, we would like to have a second read on this if possible tonight.
So moved?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, the motion carries. Mr. City Attorney, can we get a second read of Bill 6365 by title only, please?
Bill number 6365, second reading and consideration for adoption, an ordinance approving an agreement for communications facility relocations with Charter Communications for the Brentwood Bound Improvement Project.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I ask that we perfect Bill 6365 into ordinance form.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion to perfect and seconded. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor? Or, I'm sorry, roll call, please.
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderman Shelton?
Yes.
By a vote of 6-0, the passage of Bill 6365 will become ordinance 4999 when signed by the mayor.
Great, thank you. Next up is Bill number 6366. Can we get a first reading by title only, please?
Bill number 6366, first reading, an ordinance granting comprehensive sign plan approval for property at 1002 Hanley Industrial Court.
Thank you. Bola, Whitney's not here, right? Who's
I'll try to
handling
pinch hit here,
Okay.
Mayor, if I may, with Ms. Kelly being out of town.
this? All right.
The Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed, as this board knows, the city has a provision for comprehensive sign packages, which allows some deviation from the standard regulations for signage. This project is Hoffman Brothers, part of their expanding campus in Hanley Industrial Court. The Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this package and unanimously approved. There are some deviations from the standard regulations, but staff does not believe that they are significant or meaningful. And the motion to approve the comprehensive package has been approved by the commission.
Okay, great, thank you. Any questions for our city attorney about the Bill 6366? Okay, and we would like to have a second read.
Yeah,
Alderman
motion for
Weggie,
second
you
reading.
can make that motion?
Yep.
Okay. We got a motion for a second read by Alderman Weggie, seconded by Alderwoman Sims. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Entertain a motion to perfect Bill, I'm sorry, we need the second read, I'm sorry.
Bill number 6366, second reading and consideration for adoption, an ordinance granting comprehensive sign plan approval for property at 1002 Hanley Industrial Court.
Motion to perfect Bill number 6366.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion perfect by Alderman Weggie and second by Alderwoman Sims. Roll call, please.
Alderman Plufka?
There's no discussion?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Would you like to have a discussion?
I would.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
So I was interested in the last paragraph on page 6 of the 7 pages of the staff synopsis and recommendation. I'm just a little bit concerned that we're not at least considering some of the recommendations from P and Z, and that is to, I mean, it struck me, the language that says that they thought it could end up being some sort of an unfair advantage in terms of size. Not all of the signage, but the signage, as I understand it, that is going down the side of the building on the south elevation. Is that the part that was too big, I guess? Am I reading that correctly? The last line saying, therefore, staff recommends that the wall sign be reduced in size to allow an area of 41 square feet.
You are reading that correctly.
Okay. And that's the Hoffman Brothers sign, that's not the, so that sign is, what, 68 square feet, and the code recommends would be reduced down to 41, so by a third? Is that?
I believe the commission's view was that they were persuaded by the presentation. And I was not there, I cannot tell you. But from
Okay.
just talking to
You were there?
Ms. Kelly.
Okay.
That they were persuaded by the presentation concerning that issue and did not include that in the recommendation to the board. And I'm sorry, I believe.
I sat in on it, at least on YouTube. I mean,
Okay.
if that's okay, I can give my perspective. I mean, the conversation there was that, yeah, it's bigger, but also this is the it's not one building, it's a series of buildings. It was also announced at P and Z that Hoffman Brothers had entered in the contract for the Early Childhood Center, so they're going to be picking up basically that entire corner is going to be Hoffman Brothers.
Right.
And that was one of the rationales, and it was specifically asked if, they would have to come back for more signage, or if they were planning to try and exceed, coming in on the other side. And they said they weren't, or else they would be coming back for that, but this is really the entrance to their campus, and that's why they wanted to go a little bit bigger.
Okay.
Alderman Lockmuller?
Yeah, but it's a little bit, than just a little bit bigger, because you're looking at it, I believe that 41 square feet is total frontage of a building. They're going to be at 47 square feet with these two signs.
Right.
Correct?
Yeah, 16.
So they're exceeding it by 3 to 4 times what is permitted in our comprehensive sign code.
Again, I can't dispute your mathematics or the merits of it. I would only observe that, as I understand it, this is in lieu of signage that would be allowed on other buildings, but would be less able to brand their campus effectively, and that was the reason that persuaded the commission to endorse the application. I also note that Ms. Kelly did not ask me to suggest that staff continued to recommend contrary to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Staff was not troubled by the P and Z recommendation.
Thank you.
So if that's,
Alderman Plufka?
So given what Alderman Weggie had said, based on the notion that it's a campus and that it's more of an accumulated signage, is there I didn't read the ordinance or the proposed ordinance as closely as I probably should have. Is there any mention of that in the ordinance itself, saying that they're not going to come back?
If they came back to request it, they would have to go through the process, and their representations now have obviously come back to haunt them.
Okay.
And I would not recommend foreclosing, without getting too particular, I would not make a decision about arguably speech requests without a specific request before you.
Right. Trying to predict what they might do in the future and the like.
And I would not preclude their being able to ask for.
But is there any way to go one step short of that and to include in the ordinance language or in the bill language something that says in the preamble or somewhere in the description that says this contemplates the signage for the campus? In other words, that what we took into account was the multiple nature of the buildings, the fact that it is a sort of a collection here rather than just one building, or at least that was on our mind, so that as it does come up a year from now or 2 years from now, and this body is constituted differently than it is now, perhaps, or planning and zoning is, perhaps, that institutional memory can be sort of jogged by the language in the ordinance itself.
Yes, sir.
Is there anybody who could take a shot at drafting such language? Is there a way to? I mean, is there a preferred way to say something like that in under 15 words? Or to say.
Let me see what I can do.
Okay.
Yeah, Alderman Weggie.
Yeah, I'm in favor of this. I mean, look, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buildings that are part of this complex, and I don't think the concern that this is unfair to their neighbors. They're not competing against their neighbors. I think it makes a lot more sense if you have multiple businesses you're trying not to let one overwhelm. This is a different animal, and a lot of these design elements, the plan, the superhero signs that are on the southern side, they're going to use those as features to tie together into the rest of the buildings, where the early childhood center is going to be their training center, and so those will be design elements that are running through it. I think they have a really impressive graphical design and a thread that's going to run through this, so it just doesn't look like 5 random buildings in the industrial court. And I'm completely in favor of this. I mean, I think this is what we need to be doing for the kinds of businesses we want to see grow in the Brentwood.
Alderman Lockmuller? I'm sorry.
Ola, is the applicant here on Zoom or available? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Alderman Sims.
Oh, I echo Alderman Weggy's observation. I'm in favor of this as written. I think, I appreciate your concern, Alderman Plufka, but they'll be able to pull the tape, the minutes. Certainly, I mean, staff will have remembered, and, this, as our city attorney said, this meeting will come back to haunt them if they find themselves making another request, and at least while maybe not folded into an ordinance, was certainly a representation made at planning and zoning that they weren't planning on additional signs. Things change, but I mean, this will rear its head in a way that I'm satisfied that it can be approved without amendment.
Okay, hold on just a second. Mr. City Attorney, since we have a motion to perfect, it has been seconded, do we need to still go ahead and take a vote on that? Or is it too late to make any type of amendment?
No, sir, it's not too late to amend.
Okay. I'm sorry, Alderman Plufka.
Is there any way, I mean, perhaps looking at the first paragraph that says whereas, and it refers specifically to the address, is there any way to include the other addresses? The address across, because they're currently at what, across the street from this building, right? Yeah, so they're. 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, okay. And then they're going to take over this, okay, sorry. Okay. And I can appreciate the idea that this is not a, McDonald's on one side of the street and now Burger King on the other side of the street, and they're, growing their signs. But we don't know what this area is going to look like in 5 years. We don't know if there'll be another company that'll want to come in, and will feel overwhelmed by the fact that we allowed the signage to go in excess of our own rules. I don't know.
Alderman Lockmuller.
I just kind of wish the applicant was here, because I could see maybe pulling those symbols off and putting them on the, what is now the Brentwood School District admin building, because they're going to be using that for training. So you're spreading the signs around that campus area. And that's a lot of signage for an area that we're hoping to go from looking industrial to looking more business/residential. That's my objection with it.
Alderman Shelton.
Yeah, I mean, I understand where Alderman Pluffer's coming from. I, too, reviewed the meeting on YouTube, and, I was compelled by the presentation as well, and they're trying to create a whole campus, and what really kind of struck with me was the applicant stated that they're not so doing this for advertising, but it's more so for their employees to come and have a sense of, I'm going to work for Hoffman Brothers, this is their campus, this is everything like that. But I do understand where we're coming from on that, and I mean, is there a way that we can push this and have the applicant? And I mean, it sounded to me, and maybe Alderman Waggy thinks differently, but from what I recall, he said many times, I'm willing to work with the city. We're willing to do whatever you want to do, because planning and zoning, and I would encourage everyone to go back and take a look at it. They did ask a lot of kind of the same questions that we're talking about, and understanding that this is bigger than we normally would approve, and making sure that it was known to the applicant, and he said many times, we're not here because we're trying to, make it the biggest and best in the city. We're trying to just kind of create a campus, and it's just my input on that.
Mr. City Attorney.
With regard to Alderman Plufka's request for a text for an amendment, may I suggest consideration of an additional prefatory clause along the following lines. Whereas this Board of Aldermen is aware that the location at issue is a part of a larger campus occupied by applicant, and in acting on this measure takes into consideration applicant's representation that the allowances hereinafter provided are expected to reduce signage on other facilities occupied by applicant.
Perfect. I would make that motion to amend the ordinance by the use of that language.
Okay. Anybody care to second that motion?
I'll second.
Okay. Let's have any discussion on that motion. Alderman Weggy.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that amendment. I'm not sure how you interpreted that. So if it's going to be reduced, does that mean to bring it totally into compliance across all of the buildings? Or, I don't know, it just seems ambiguous. You have to trust the voters that the board that they're gonna have here in 2 years when this comes back up will do their due diligence, and I think we gotta trust the process for additional buildings as they come through. So I'm not in favor of that amendment.
Well, sorry. As I listen to it, it's in the preamble, it's in the whereas section. It does not require them to do any of the things you're talking about. It just says that we all recognize what we were dealing with at the moment in time when we voted on this, and we took those things into account when we voted this into ordinance form.
Any further discussion? Okay, so, I'm sorry.
Can I ask a question of our city attorney? Does this have, I mean, I'm viewing this and I'm gonna resist the temptation to wear my lawyer hat, that we are making a statement as to the process, but it's not as if they down the road wanted to apply for a sign, they would have to go through the process, right? I mean, this is.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's not as if this is limiting, it's a comment, it's there, it'll be in the whereas clause, but they would still have to go through planning and zoning again if they wanted a subsequent sign in a manner in which we've been discussing.
Planning and zoning and the board.
Anyone else? Okay, so what we have in front of the board is the motion to amend Bill 6366 by the language that was drafted by our city attorney on the spot. And we have a motion and a second on that. Do we need a roll call on this motion or vote? Okay, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay?
Okay. In the opinion of the board, or the chairman, the motion carries by a count of 5-1. Okay, now, do we need a renewed motion to perfect Bill 6366 as amended, or can we just take the vote?
That might be nice.
All right.
Motion to perfect bill number 6366 as amended.
Second.
Okay, now, any discussion on that? Roll call.
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
No.
Alderman Shelton?
Yes.
5-1. Bill 6366 will become ordinance 5,000.
Wow.
No
All
balloon
right.
drop, a confetti, nothing.
All right. Great, thank you, everybody. That brings us down to item 11, citizen comments. Anybody in the public care to address the board, now is the time to do so. Or anybody online, and I will check with Kelly. Do we have anybody online? Nope. Okay. Once again, I would like to go into closed session for 3 matters: legal, real estate, and personnel.
Your Honor, I move that we adjourn to executive session to consider legal matters under Missouri Revised Statutes, Chapter 610.021.1, real estate, Chapter 610.021, subsection 2, and personnel, Chapter 610.021, subsection 3, and adjourn from there.
Have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on that motion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderman Shelton?
Yes.
Carries for
Great, thank you.
adjournment.
We will reconvene.